Je remercie l'ambassadeur de l'Italie.
I thank the Ambassador of Italy. I give the floor to Montenegro.
Mr. President, Montenegro is a member of the core group of states which has brought forward this resolution and would like to take the floor to make a general comment. As a country from a post-conflict region, Montenegro is actually aware of need to address accountability, justice and reconciliation in the aftermath of the conflict. A prerequisite for all of this is for the establishment, beyond doubt, of the facts which took place, for a country to terms with its own past, for majority and minority populations to re-establish mutual trust, and for all to begin the difficult path towards genuine reconciliation. It is vital to know the truth about what has taken place, however difficult this is to confront. It is our strong belief that it is imperative for the international community to act now to support this process. The report presented yesterday by the High Commissioner for Human Rights makes it clear that existing mechanisms which Sri Lanka has established have consistently failed to establish the truth regarding allegations of serious human rights violation or to achieve justice for the victims. We believe that the pursuit of truth, justice and accountability in Sri Lanka cannot be delayed any longer. For all those affected by the violations which are referred to the High Commissioner's report committed by both sides, it is imperative for the international community to act in support of the promotion of justice and reconciliation in Sri Lanka. Montenegro believes that the comprehensive investigation which the draft resolution seeks to establish will help the people of Sri Lanka to know the truth and will aid the process of reconciliation. We also hope that it will contribute to the achievement of justice for the victims of violations and abuses and to the ending of impunity for those who are responsible. By adopting this resolution, the Council will express the need for necessary steps to be taken in Sri Lanka. It will serve as a reminder of past human rights violations that have yet to be fully accounted for and as an impetus for further action to address an ongoing lack of impartial accountability. We urge the Council to support efforts to promote human rights in Sri Lanka and to adopt this resolution here today. Montenegro stays ready to work with co-sponsoring countries, Government of Sri Lanka and Human Rights Council in support of promotion of justice and reconciliation in Sri Lanka. We therefore urge all members of the Council to support draft resolution L1 today, and I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the Ambassador of Montenegro. I give the floor to the United Kingdom.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United Kingdom is one of the main sponsors of this resolution, L1. The UK is committed to supporting long-term peace and reconciliation in Sri Lanka. We welcome the positive steps Sri Lanka has taken so far. However, there is an important gap in those steps, and that is the need for a genuine process to determine the truth regarding the allegations of war crimes and serious violations and abuses which took place during the conflict. As the High Commissioner said to the Council yesterday, alleged violations of the gravity and magnitude of war crimes and crimes against humanity must be investigated, and this Council must assume its responsibilities. We regret that Sri Lanka has failed to take domestic action itself, despite 2 previous resolutions of this Council calling for an independent, credible domestic investigation. The domestic process which Sri Lanka set up, the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission, failed to address the matter adequately. Therefore, in the absence of action by the government, the international community should support the clear call by the High Commissioner for an international investigation. Mr. President, this is not about needing more time. It is about taking the time now to show the political will to back a transparent, thorough and credible investigation. We know that some have claimed the resolution is not warranted on the grounds that Sri Lanka has every right to take steps to stop the return of Tamil Tiger terrorism. Of course, no one wants to see terrorism take root again, and we in Britain know that the fight against terrorism requires a careful balance. We sympathise with all those Sri Lankans who suffered at the hands of the brutal Tamil Tigers. No one regrets that they were defeated. But the response to any believed terrorist threats should be proportionate to avoid fueling the fires of extremism. This means ensuring inclusive governance, minority rights, and stopping sexual and other abuses and providing justice for all. Mr. President, we therefore believe that this Council should stand together, support the High Commissioner's call, and support the resolution which seeks a better future for all Sri Lankans. Thank you.
I thank the Ambassador of the United Kingdom. Are there any other comments, general comments at this point from member states? In that case, I would now like to give the floor to the country concerned. I give the floor to Sri Lanka.
Mr. President, anyone unaware of the ground situation in Sri Lanka walking into this room today could not be blamed for thinking that Sri Lanka is the most troubled place in this planet. But those aware who are here are also well aware that there is no urgent situation in Sri Lanka which warrants the interest which has now been shown. I've listened to about 15 to 20 minutes of concerns about Sri Lanka and how people want to help Sri Lanka. The question is, what is the best way to do so? The draft resolution before this Council is, if adopted, will not only constitute a serious breach of international law, but create a dangerous precedent in the conduct of international relations within the established global order of sovereign states, and could pose a grave threat to the sovereignty and independence of member states of the United Nations, which is enshrined in the Charter. The draft resolution also shifts the parameters of the current draft from previous resolutions 19.1 and 22.1 to incorporate new issues which essentially remain at the level of general allegations, both unsubstantiated and uncollaborated. This is evident in change in the title itself, which now has the addition of human rights, presumably with a view to expanding the scope of the resolution from the past to the present and the future, with no rationale to do so, and in order to serve the vested interests of a few. We are particularly surprised by the procedural anomalies and irregularities committed through this draft resolution, as voiced by many countries cross-regionally during the informal negotiations on the text. The draft, if adopted, will set a dangerous precedent, allowing some states to bypass the established methods of work and engagement of this Council. The draft resolution in its key operative para vests the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights with an investigative mandate in violation of the HRC Resolution 60/251 and the IB package. In addition to not having the mandate to conduct the investigation, the OHCHR also does not have the capacity or the resources to do so. This operative paragraph also contains lack of clarity in reference to relevant experts, thus deceptively opening the door to third-party elements in the guise of an investigation by the OHCHR. The reference to international investigation mechanism is clear through crafted in ambiguous language, which could be open to interpretation. The budgetary implications in the implementation of the mechanism envisaged in the draft resolution are also of interest, considering that mandated activities need to be carried out through the regular budget. By a deliberate failure to specify a time period in operative para 10b, the draft resolution may confine its ambit between 2002 and 2009 by adopting a narrower interpretation of the period covered by the LLRC, thus completely excluding the atrocities and violations of international human rights and international humanitarian law committed by the LTTE prior to 2002. Is this the intention of the sponsors of this resolution? Through the mandate of the LLRC, which refers to the period between February 2002 and May 2009, it may be noted that the Commission in its report says that the facts and circumstances which led to the failure of the ceasefire agreement operationalized in February 2000 also have been considered in the preparation of this report. The Commission accordingly provides a great degree of flexibility to the representatives in the parameters here. In the circumstances, it is contended that Operative Para 10B of the draft resolution, as it is presently constituted, is structured in such a partisan manner to exclude the alleged atrocities committed over the entire period of this conflict. In conclusion, Mr. President, it is in this context that we are disappointed to observe that a key imperative driving this resolution is not genuine concern for the welfare of the Sri Lankan people, but electoral compulsions of some states at the behest of certain extreme elements with links to the LTTE. Such biases and extreme ideologies ignore the ground realities, the legitimate aspirations of the Sri Lankan people, and trivialize the price paid by all Sri Lankans to defeat a 30-year brutal terrorist conflict and consolidate peace. Before this Council takes a decision on the draft resolution, I wish to appeal to the conscience of the member states. Sri Lanka has embarked on a painstaking process of reconciliation. Don't put spokes in the wheel. Irrespective of the outcome of today's decision, I wish to categorically state that the democratically elected government of Sri Lanka, and indeed all peace-loving people in my country, will never countenance any return of armed conflict or terrorism. Therefore, Sri Lanka categorically and unreservedly rejects this draft resolution as it challenges the sovereignty and independence of a member state of the UN, violates the principles of international law based on profoundly flawed premises, and is inimical to the interests of the people of Sri Lanka. I wish to reiterate the government's firm resolve and commitment to continue its ongoing process of reconciliation and nation building, which is solely based on the best interests of the people of Sri Lanka, and in a homegrown process. Let me assure this Council that Sri Lanka remains steadfast in its consistent position of cooperation with the international community and the United Nations. Mr. President, the government of Sri Lanka therefore wishes to submit that the draft resolution before this Council today erodes the sovereignty of the people of Sri Lanka and the core values of the UN Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the basic principles of law that postulates equality among all people. I therefore request members of this Council to reject this resolution by a vote. I thank you.